Hey Bill, can you sharpen my kitchen knives?
I had noticed that the steak knives were getting harder to use and that I had some other tools to sharpen. So this would be a good time to show how I sharpen our cutting tools. We received no compensation for the mention or use of any products or companies in this video. In this video, I will be talking about the basics, and I will limit it to just knives, chisels, and scissors. With that said, this video will not be about the many different shapes of those cutting edges, but will focus on just the simplest. Starting off with knives, the basics are a cutting edge that is the result of sharpening. The cutting edge angle is the angle that you hold the knife in relation to the sharpening media. We will get more into the different types of media in a minute or so. Then there is the relief face. This is where I don't sharpen, but it is affected by the sharpening process. Notice the cutting edge angle is not at the same angle as the relief face. This is important in all knives, but especially kitchen knives that need to slice very thin. Next are chisels. These are very simple in the way to sharpen them. Again, I have the cutting edge that is the result of sharpening. Then there is the tool face. This is what I will use the sharpening media on to create the cutting edge. Then there is the flank. When sharpening a chisel, the sharpening media is not normally used here unless there is a burr on the cutting edge, and then it's just used to remove that burr. Then simple scissors are sort of like two chisels shearing past each other. There are two cutting edges. There are two cutting faces. This is where I will use the sharpening media. Then there are the two flanks of the scissors. I will not use a sharpening media on these for simple scissors. That being said, there are some shapes of scissors that this is where I will sharpen, but that is out of the scope of this video. If that is of interest to you, let us know in the comments below. We will plan a video about that. Now let's talk about sharpening media. You can almost use any abrasive to sharpen things. It can be as crude as a rock from a stream, a patch of flat concrete, a file, or a honing stone. I prefer to use a honing stone. These are manufactured as flat slabs of abrasive bonded together with two different grits, one on each side. Now I have to be honest, I have never bought one. They have always been given to me or inherited, and I've had many over the years. If you need to buy one, Amazon has them for anywhere from $8 to over $100. For basic sharpening, cheap is not a problem. What is a problem is holding the stone, as you will see. I really need to hold the tool that is being sharpened with two hands to get the best results. Sandpaper is also a good sharpening abrasive, but I have to be careful not to cut the paper with the blade. This will dull the edge that I just worked real hard at making. This is because the paper will flex and take the edge away. While I have used many different grits of sandpaper, I prefer to use it as a final finish. So that's the reason why I use 1000 grit. Next, there are diamond hones. I like them as well. These came from Harbor Freight. These are very aggressive grits. They are good for rapid removal of metal from the blade. I use them for chisels and reshaping knives that have lost too much of the cutting edge or have large nicks in the cutting edge. Then there are the drag-through sharpening tools. These will only work for some knives and very few scissors. They are basically 2, 3, or more abrasive wheels or cutting edges that form a V as you pull the knife through. They scrape off metal to form a V shape on the edge. I really don't use them, unless of course there are no rocks around that would work better. All abrasive sharpening tools need some form of lubrication to keep the shavings from clogging up the abrasive. I've used cutting oils and other lubricants with varying degrees of success. But I've also found that soapy water works well for me, especially in the kitchen. Quite frankly, cutting oils don't smell or taste good to everyone. I tried cooking oil once. Take my advice, don't. It clogs up the abrasive after the first use and only comes out with strong chemicals. Here you can see I'm holding the knife at an angle that is nearly flat to the honing stone. This is because this knife is used to slice thin and thick foods. Also, this is matching the original angle that came on the knife blade. This knife was dull, but not exceptionally so. Sherry just likes very sharp knives in her kitchen.
A sharp knife is a good knife. It's safer to use. You don't have to force the blade through anything like tomatoes or marshmallows or even soft butter.
So to get that final edge, I use the 1000 grit sandpaper to just take the roughness off the edge. My pocket knife has been around for a long time and has seen lots of use. I stopped using it some time back because I had used it to cut some cardboard and it got very dull. So to bring it back to a good edge, I started with the coarsest diamond hone and worked it through progressively to finer and finer hones, then the sandpaper. All total, it took me about 20 minutes, but I consider that time well spent. While I was working on the dinette replacement, I needed a chisel. When I pulled this one out of the toolbox, I noticed it was very dull. I couldn't use it. I needed to get it sharp in a hurry. So I just grabbed the diamond honed and, little work, cleaned it up in about 3 minutes. I had a burr on the edge, so I needed to remove this by honing flat on the flank. It now has a razor sharp edge, although it also has a chip in the edge that I will need to use a grinder to remove. Sherry has some of the sharpest scissors I've ever seen. They are sharp enough to use as a razor when she first gets them. After some time, they just don't meet her standards anymore. And then I get them. And I work with them and I'll put a new edge on them that I think is just as sharp as the factory.
Little does he know, that's the way I get new scissors.
The key to making a good edge on scissors is the angle. This must be maintained while honing the cutting face. This technique can be used to sharpen scissors or tin snips or hedge clippers. They all use basically the same cutting shape.
Thanks for watching our video. If you like what you see, press the like button below and subscribe. And also check out our other videos.